All right, guys, welcome back to the channel and thanks for dropping by. In this session, I'm going to give a quick little demonstration of the macros that I created as an expansion to my Quick Vintage. If you've already purchased the Quick Vintage, it's a free update. These macros are going to be included in that. If you haven't and you like what you see here, head on over to my Gumroad shop. There will be a link down in the description. You can pick it up. Before I get started with the demo, I guess I'll give a little bit of a background on how this project developed and came about. So I guess about a year, just over a year ago, maybe, or maybe just under a year. I'm not sure about the exact date, but I released my Quick Vintage on Gumroad, and it was intended to be used with Affinity Designer. And at the time, I knew that Photo could create halftones, but I knew, also that Affinity Designer could not create halftones, and you could use that functionality, but only on your desktop while using Affinity Publisher as a bridge between Photo and Designer. And I'm really into using vector tools, so I wanted to have a way to do vintage style coloring stuff, which I was really into at the time. And I was really studying and getting into it and experimenting with it. And yeah, so that's how I built the kit originally. I just wanted to use halftone screens while I was using Affinity Designer on my iPad. So I made the Quick Vintage, and the way that it worked, basically it is I can show you here. It was a series of drag and drop screens that you could use to create certain colors. So, for example, this green color that in the background, where his with like the fluid in his little glass jar there in his eyes, that color is called here. It's either I believe that's YB3, right? So what you have is you have a Y plate overlapped with a B3 plate to create the green color, and this was a way to emulate vintage 3-color process screening. So then, yeah, I made. I had it met with moderate success. I've seen people making artwork with it on Facebook and Instagram and Reddit, and actually, I did a demo for it. It was the Stegosaurus demo, and Affinity saw it, and it got me noticed, and they approached me and they said, "Hey, you want to do a creative session for us? We really like your video." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome, of course." And I was on top of the world, and um, man, that was such a fun time. And anyway, it really boosted my self confidence. Shortly after that, though, um, Frankentoon released his Splat image degrader kit, and I was so disappointed with myself because I didn't think of it, like macros. Actually, I didn't even know what a macro was. If you were to like make a pie chart of like my time spent with Affinity programs or apps, it would be like 85% Affinity Designer, 10% Affinity Photo, and 5% Publisher. And most of that time on Designer would be on my iPad, just because I'm in love with that. Anyway, I was like, oh, it was kind of a gut check, and I was like, I've got to figure out how this works when I get the chance. And last week we started summer vacation at my school, so every morning this week I got up. I bought his kit a couple of weeks ago and started playing with it, but I didn't really understand exactly how it all worked. But this week I sort of dove in and sort of took a look at his macros and how to make macros in the first place and how to use them. And I started reading a bunch of articles, and I went to the Affinity help page. And anyway, I figured it out. I thought, how can I also incorporate macros sort of workflow into my kit? And there's no way I was ever going to match what Frankentoon created. His kit is it gives you a lot of options and a lot of different ways to uh, create this style of artwork, and it's very in depth. Um, but I just thought, I remember a long time ago somebody told me, don't try to be somebody else. Just try to be yourself, but be the best version of yourself. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just get back to the roots and just make it simple. just try to simplify the process into a couple of macros, and that'll be the end of it. And so that's what I did this week. I sat down, figured out how to make macros, figured out how to record them, and made a little plan, and I did it. So by the time you see this video, you'll be able to you'll have this. It'll be there. It's a free update to anybody who's purchased the kit. And yeah, let's get into how it works with all that out of the way. Let's get into it. If you open up the macro demo template file, you'll see this little guy in front of you. I think he was inspired by the alien parody from Spaceballs, where the guy, he pops out of the chest and he's like, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey." I remember as a child that scene cracked me up, and maybe subconsciously I was channeling that guy because this little alien head kind of looks like that. I'll try to find a photo and do like a little side by side comparison in the final edit of this video. But yeah, anyway, yeah, here's my little alien guy. So let's open up the layer stack and take a look at what we've got. All right. So I've got my color layers here, and I've got an ink layer here. I did the ink with one of my new brushes. I didn't really do much to the kit for this one. What I did was I removed all the halftone brushes because you won't really need them. I added a couple of inkers, and then again, I saw some of the cool ways that Frankentoon was able to get some crackle brushes. I tried to make a couple of my own. I've already made a bunch of crackle brushes though. I've got a bunch of them in my comics kit, and then there are some in the prototypes download, and that's free if you guys want to check those out. But anyway, I really like the method that he used to create those brushes, so I added a couple of my own in here. But this guy was done using the Crusty Rusty inker, and I like the results that I got with that brush. It's a pretty fun brush to use. So yeah, we don't need the halftone brushes because we've got the macros, which will help us create the halftone screens that we need. These colors are all vector. I did them in Affinity Designer, but I want to note here for you guys, you can also use the pen tool and the node tool in Affinity Photo to create colors using vector tools. And yeah, I don't know. I might be spending, now that I've made these macros, I'll probably be spending a lot more time in this space. Now that I know you can do this, again, I don't spend much time in Affinity Photo, but I'm going to start giving it a shot and seeing how comfy I can become inside Affinity Photo. We'll see. I can't neglect Designer. That's my baby. All right. Whew. So much to talk about. It's crazy. I rarely do these off the cuff videos like this anymore. I'm gonna get into it. Let's do it. We're 10 minutes in, Rob. We got to get moving. Okay, the macros, the meat. Let's get into that. It's pretty simple. What you do is you select the layer that you want to affect, which is the colors layer. These are all vector, but it doesn't matter. The process will duplicate it and rasterize it and create plate separations for us. So let's do that. We're just going to select it and then hit YRB plate generation. And bingo. You see down here a context menu pops up, and you'll be able to use change the size of the Y, R, and B dots. And if you do this, just make sure you can make them larger or smaller. Just make sure that when you do, they're all the same size before you hit apply. That way they'll line up the way they're supposed to create the effect. And then I'll hit apply. Cool. So that saves you a ton of time, which was super genius move by Mr. Frankie from Frankentoon. Yeah. So what we've got here are the plates. Now, my original screen angles were a little bit different. I decided to just use the native screen angles that are automatically generated when Affinity Photo creates the screen tones. So my reds are at 75, my blues are at 15, and my yellows are at 0. And if I were to add black, they would be at 45. We'll talk about that a little bit more. I left the black screen out of this, right? Because I didn't use that in my original kit. I wanted to keep this as close to my original kit's purpose and spirit as possible. So yeah, we've got this. Now, I want to recommend that if you're going to use this macro, make sure that you use colors from the YRB64 color palette here. None of these colors have K values in them at all. All right, and that's important. I didn't I didn't account for that when I recorded the screen separation macro. So there's if you do have black values in your colors, you're going to generate some artifacts and anomalies in your screens that you don't want, and it won't work properly. So you can adjust the cyan, the magenta, and the yellow values all if you'd like, but to keep things in line with my original kit, I only used values of 0, 25%, 50%, and 100% in C, M, and Y. And that is how I generated all the colors for my that's all the colors you can generate with the plates that I built in the original kit. So that's what I have done with these macros here. It just saves you a lot of time, basically. Um, so yeah, we've got that. Now, if you take a look at my dot quality, they're super clean and super circular and super nice, but we can rough them up quite a bit using the pixelation macro here. It's really quick. Just tap it and it pixelates them for you. Now, for some reason, the pixelation macro doesn't show the on-screen controls like the others when I'm on the iPad, but I tested this on my desktop, on my Mac Mini, and it offers me, I put in the ability for you to adjust the level of the pixelation. But at this, with this little macro on the iPad, I figured that it's not a real big loss. You can actually, you can undo that. So you can just run the macro again to get even more pixelation. And I kind of like that. It's really funky. The it looks really gnarly. So you can go super funky with it, or you can just go sort of funky and sort of beat up. Let's go back to super funky. Sort of beat up. I'll just leave it on sort of beat up for now. That's fine. So let's see. We'll go to navigate. We'll go to fit. Okay. Now, remember how we talked about in my Steggy demo that you can sort of shift the plates around to create like screen printing anomalies and things like that. Well, I built a little macro for that. You can do a plate shift. And here you can just control it with the little pop-up menu instead of having to go into the Transform Studio. Let's say I want my red to shift over just a little bit. And maybe we'll shift the yellow over just a little bit as well. And then hit apply. So there we go. You can shift your blues and your yellows and your reds, however you want to do it. And what's cool about this is that it saves so much time. I mean, really, macros. When I bought the kit and when I figured out what was Frankentoon was doing, I was like, holy crap, this saves so much time. And maybe only really experienced designers would have even thought of it. But yeah, we figured it out. You can also do it with the Y values. With the other macro there, I've got the plate shift X and the plate shift Y. Let's go back and do, what I'll do is I'll shift the blue over a little bit. Shift the red over a little bit. Hit apply. And that'll be good for me. I kind of like the way that looks. Looks like something that, it's like a crappy ad in the back of a comic book. Okay. Now let's talk about some of the other additions to the kit that I made that you might be able to utilize. So my original assets kit had a bunch of things that you would need to use if you're using the plate method. And that's still included in the kit. That's why I've labeled it A. But now the expansion I've labeled B. And here, this week, while I was learning about the macros and stuff, I was also experimenting and sort of building up a library of paper textures. And I expanded the paper textures and stuff and the overlays quite a bit. I'll show you how they work. First, the paper textures. The way I tried to make them is I tried to reduce the size without losing too much of their sort of detail quality. But the way that I intended it to be used is that you can layer several different paper textures to create different types of paper, so that you can get sort of it's like you can recombine them to get different looks. So right now what I've got is this crusty old paper at the top. What I'll do is I'll just drag and drop in. I'll just throw in this guy right here. Okay. Let's see what he goes. What I'll do is I'll go crusty old paper on the bottom, and then vintage paper on the top. I'll line it up, make sure everything's nice and centered on my canvas. And actually, you know what? I'll switch these out. So for this crusty old paper one, I like the way the average layer mode sort of dulls the colors a little bit, which makes it look like kind of older and faded. But yeah, down here you can adjust, get more out of it, right? What if I were to put another one in here? Let's do something with a little more funk to it. Let's do this guy right here, or let's do this guy right here. Okay, I'll bring him all the way down to the bottom, line him up. Yeah, there's all kinds of combinations you can create. Let's do one more. I'll show you this one. It's very subtle, and again, you can play with all the layer modes and stuff like that to achieve different looks. Cool. All right, I'm just gonna get rid of this one. Turn this one back on, but I'll actually bring this way down, maybe, and I'll play with the layer modes a little bit. Let's just go back to normal. Cool. All right, that'll work. Okay, so we're getting pretty vintage, moving right along. Now what I want to do is go back through some of the steps that we could do with the older one. Now, man, it was really kind of a smack my head moment, like when I realized that my aged inking step, like it was really convoluted. I realized that so in the original one, I had these aged ink layers that you bring in, and then you would add some masks to them and then invert your inks and drop them inside the masks. It was super convoluted. I don't know why I decided to do things that way. It's just that was the best I knew how to do at the time. But I realized that if I drop in one of these aged ink assets, what I can do is once I've got it lined up, I can just drag it and clip it inside of the inks, and you get the same effect. Sorry, guys. Anyway, yeah, you can adjust the opacity of the layer to get different effects or different levels of the effect that you want. And you can still mask them up. Say you want to mask it up and then go in with a paintbrush. I'll use my damage brush here. I'll lower the opacity to about 50%, and I'll increase the size quite a bit, and go in here with some white on this mask and sort of reveal the effect in the areas that I want. And just playing with the opacity of the brush, of the masking brush, will affect the strength of the effect and in the different places, right? So there you go. It's getting pretty vintageized. We're on the way. It's looking pretty old. Cool. So yeah, that's the simplified aged inking process. It's kind of a revelation when I first realized it. Oh, sorry guys. Seriously. Anyway, Yeah, there's that. Okay, so then what else? What else have we got in here? We can add lots of dirt and grime and damage to the paper also. Again, that's part of the idea, like the modular paper system. Let's just add, let's see what happens when we add this guy right here. Yeah. Now this thing is looking super beat up and funky. And again, if you don't want to use the entire thing, you can put this on the bottom layer, right? And it'll be affected by the layer mode of the top image, right? But you can also mask it out, right? And again, we'll go back and you can control where the grime's coming through, right? And depending on what kind of brush you use, you'll get different effects from it. Like this. Cool. All right, I'm cool with that. We'll just leave it like that. Maybe I'll bring it down here so it averages out a little bit and it's not so heavy duty. All right, we're looking good. We're vintage. We're moving along. Um, what else can I do? Oh, you can go several different ways with it. So since our paper is looking really mildewy and gnarly, why don't I just go ahead and I'll add another one of these grime screens. This one's going to be, I think, a gritty screen. Yeah. So what I'll do is to use this effect moderately, like I could use it like this, right? But maybe I just want to affect the colors. So what I'll do is I'll group these together. I'll duplicate them. I'll turn my original one off and I'll rasterize the duplicated layer. That way, what I can do is I can clip this inside of there. And so I can grime up my colors a little bit. And check it out. I've got it set super weak, but watch what happens when I bring it up, right? And then what I can do is, just like with the others, I can mask it up and reveal it selectively using a paintbrush and some white, which I already have. So I'll just, actually, maybe a different brush will be better for this. I'll use my rough masking brush. This one has a kind of a dusty quality to it like this, but I need it to be I need the opacity to be super low in order to make sure that it stays subtle. And now that I'm using it, it looks, I'm gonna try to adjust it to where I can kind of get like some, you see it adds like a dirtiness to it. So you can go that route if you want, right? What I'll do is I'll name this one. I'll name this one like grimy. Yeah, we'll call this one grimy. We'll just call it grime. Okay. I'll turn that off. I want to demonstrate the other thing you can do. And then again here I've got these last two. No, I want to say that I've set them up the way that I liked them when I was creating them, but I want to encourage you to experiment with the layer modes, and you can use them in all kinds of different ways. In fact, I have this week. These are just my favorites. I'll insert this. Originally in the kit, I included some screens like this with the original kit, but for this one, I made some new ones. And this one's like meant to be like, serious damage to the book. It's like super faded and scratched up and things like that. Again, you just clip it inside the layer and then mask it up and reveal it selectively. To get areas of damage without having it be uniform. And what's great about this is that you can actually move this layer around. You don't have to line it up to the canvas like that. That's just the way I designed it for ease so that you can snap it to center very easily. But there are lots of great textures all over this screen. So play around with it and explore. I highly encourage that. It's not meant to be like this sort of robotic factory process. It's meant for to encourage ease of exploration. So yeah, we've got some super damaged retro looking stuff going on here. I'm super happy with it. Now, so let's see what else. What else have I got? Like I said, I removed all the halftone brushes from the B kit so that you can just concentrate on inking your piece and then coloring it using your vector tools or your you can color it with the flats and mask brush and raster. It really doesn't matter. Oh yeah. So speaking of that, if you want to do vector colors, what you can do is, say you're just starting to work on it, and you want to get your colors done, and you want to get it done in photo. What you can do is you can add this, and what it does is, it's basically a layer template, but this is just so I can see it right inside the utilities stack or the asset stack. But once you've got it in place, you can just delete this. And there are a couple of vector layers that I carried over from Affinity Designer. So that way, if I'm working with my pen tool and I decide that I want to, you know, start coloring him inside this app with vector tools, I can. And then, oops, sorry, let's go back to the pen tool. Yeah, you're good to go in that respect. You can start coloring, and it'll be there for you when you while you're coloring. So you can color using vector tools inside Affinity Photo. All right, let's keep on moving with our vintage demo here. We're almost there, guys. I meant for this to be rather quick. I was just excited about it. I just finished it yet last night, so I'm happy to be releasing it today. Um, all right, so what do we got here? What else can we do? Oh, yeah, I had this idea that I wanted this guy to be as though he was coming out of like this interdimensional portal or something. Let's add a little bit to our artwork. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the layers that I don't need. In fact, I'm just going to delete my original colors layer. We're going to call this one YRB screens. And then we'll just call this one dupe. Okay. So let's figure it out. I'm going to turn off my overlays for a minute so I can sort of concentrate on what I'm doing. Maybe we'll keep this one on. I'll grab my shape tool and I'll get the segment tool and I'll make us an interdimensional portal. Is it going to be green? I don't think so. But for right now, I'll just leave it as green. All right. So I can, once I've got my shape in there, I'll just convert it to curves, adjust it how I like it, how I think it should look. We need it to be a little wider, right? Because this guy's like, he's kind of wide with his little tentacle legs. Line it up, get it behind him. That's about right. Cool. What I want to do is I want to make a gradient, right? So I'm going to create this gradient here. You can do gradients with this kit. It's really fun, actually. And that's part of why I'm showing you this. I'm going to select that node, and I'm going to use, let's use Y3R at the top. And at the bottom, we'll use something with a little yellow in it. We'll use YR3. Cool. This alien race's technology is like the back of a like a California sunset beach T-shirt or something. they designed their technology to be like like an 80s sunset T-shirt. Okay. Anyway, so we've got our colors, right? Again, it's super simple. It doesn't even matter that it's a curve. The macro will still work. Just select the layer and then hit plate generation. It will take a second and then generate some plates for us. Super cool. And then I'll hit OK and apply. I will, with that same layer still selected, I'll do an X shift on the, let's move the reds over a little bit. Actually, yeah, let's just leave it. Well, let's just leave it. I don't think I need to change anything. All right, cool. So there's that. Now, what else can we do to it? Okay, here's another thing we can do. I forgot about this, the gradient screen generation. So remember I said that there's no K plate or black plate, right? But what if you wanted to create some, value with black in it, like maybe some shading on his face or on the chassis of his little robotic body there or whatever? We can do that in a similar way. Check it out. I'll grab a square tool or rectangle tool, right? And I will draw out another rectangle that covers his body. I guess say to here. That's fine. It doesn't, yeah, right about there. And then in here, I've given you the ability. I've added a gradient swatch, just a black to white gradient. Then with the fill tool, I can change the direction of the gradient. I want the light to be coming from the left or from behind him, I guess. Shoot, I bet you. No, I'm not gonna make it too complicated. I don't think this lighting is exactly right, but it'll work for what we're doing. So I'm gonna move this above the colors there, just because I want to see how I want the light to line up. That looks about right. And again, I'll go to the fill tool and sort of try to move my black color just like so. Right? And then I can adjust how far it goes. That yeah, that looks good. I like the way that looks. Let's do it right about to here. Okay? Sorry guys, I'm getting my gradient the way I want it. Okay, cool. So get your gradient the way that you want it, all right? What we're going to do is we're going to produce a black screen that we can use to overlay black halftones on top of our other colors to create basically, essentially a black plate. So what we'll do is we'll just go back to the macros with that selected and we'll hit gradient screen generation. It'll take a minute and it will produce a screen for us. Hold on, cancel. I think I didn't select, yeah, sorry guys, I didn't select the layer. That's a little learning moment for you. You have to select the layer you want to affect with the macros, otherwise you'll get an error. So I select the layer and then generate a gradient screen. And then I'll hit, you can change the color, right? Just make sure it's 100% black. And then hit apply. And you get this nice black screen. Occasionally, it'll happen that it doesn't come out like perfectly black like you want it to. Although it's weird. I think this is, this is the first version of these macros that I've created. I'm still working on them, but basically what I can do is I can go in here to the layer stack. See, I feel like it has this kind of a gray look to it. What I want to do is let's get rid of that. I can go in here and I can add a color overlay to it to get nice, super black ink. Okay. And if you notice, take a look at the moire pattern that there is there. Super, the dots line up basically. And remember back when we generated the screen, it gave us the option to change the size of the dots. Just make sure that you change the dots to the size that you used when you generated your YRB plates, and everything will line up beautifully. And then what can you do with it? Well, you can bring it down here. You can get it in here if you want. Or what you can do is you can take this, rasterize it. Let's get funky. I'm going to take this and delete that layer for a moment. I'm going to duplicate my ink layer. And then, sorry guys, check this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my dupe. Okay? But I'm going to delete all the stuff inside, right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to color it up. Now, guys, this, like I said, these macros are very simple. The main thing I wanted to show you is that you can generate these nifty black gradient screens. But the way you use those screens is up to you. Now, this is just the way that I'm choosing to use the screen, right? I'm going to color this guy white with an overlay effect. All right, just white. Make it white. Okay, cool. Then I'm going to nest this screen inside of that duplication. Oops, sorry. First I need to rasterize it with the color overlay. Sorry about that. We'll rasterize. Then I'll make this into a child layer. Then what you can do is in the color filters area, there's a filter called erase white paper, which is super useful. Oh, sorry. What I keep skipping steps. What I want to do is now that that's like this, I'm going to rasterize it. Now I'm going to go in and do erase white paper. Sorry, guys. All right, cool. Okay, and after a lot of my bumbling in this demo, which you guys that have your faculties sharper than my own, this is what you can do. And again, if something happens and it comes out a little gray, you can always go back and add a black overlay, and you'll get your blacks. So then what you can do is you can combine these with your original inks if you like. If you want the black to happen at that level, you can combine them with the original inks or not. It's up to you. Anyway, that's just one way you can use that. I personally wouldn't do this, but some of you may be smarter than me and know a better way that you can utilize black screens. So I just wanted to provide you a way that you could create black screens or gradient screens. We don't need it though, right? We're good to go. We're good to go. We're going to be cruising without it. We don't really need it. All right. Let's turn everything back on. See where we're at. All right. Cool. Oh, isn't there one macro that I haven't shown yet? Yes, the halftone line generation. Let's say that you wanted to make this lines instead of a halftone. So I'll just group those things together. Turn this back on. Remove it from the group. Okay, turn those off. Maybe I want to make this into a halftone line. So what I can do is, it'll destroy the gradient color, right? But that's okay. So, you know, right now I'll just basically change the color of this object to like a hot pink or something. It's a pixel layer now. Yeah, I'll just recolor it with a color overlay. What if I make it like, man, I wish there was a swatches panel in the color selector. That's okay. I'll just use the CMYK sliders and I'll just make it straight up magenta. Cool. There we go. So say I wanted to make this like a halftone line sort of deal. I can hit OK, rasterize that really quick, and then generate some halftone lines. And again, I can change the color here, no problem. I want my overlay to be magenta, no problem. And there we go. So guys, yeah, you can change the angle of those lines, whatever you want. You can get as creative with it as you need to. Um, Guys, I think I have been at this for about 40 minutes. I want to make sure that I don't keep you sequestered from whatever you're trying to get accomplished today. But I was super excited that I got these macros finished. I hope you'll forgive me for my clumsy demonstration of this stuff, but I was super excited to figure this stuff out. Uh, Again, oh, um, if you're ever out there, Mr. Figueroa from Frankentune, and you hear this, I'm a huge fan. I really appreciate all the stuff that you've done and all the stuff that I learned from you. You're amazing, and yeah, guys, all of you guys that have bought my stuff in my Gumroad store and supported me and helped me keep moving forward on my journey towards my goal of being like a working full-time artist someday. Really appreciate that. It's been helping a lot. All you new subscribers on the YouTube, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. We're moving up there. I'm almost at 1,000. Um, it's gonna be great. One of these days, I'm gonna hit the mark, and yeah, I hope to keep making cool stuff that interests some of you for a long, long time. Guys, wherever you are, keep working hard, keep doing your best, keep exploring and experimenting, and take care of your friends and family. And despite all the negative stuff going on out there, uh, just find that higher vibration and uh, enjoy this lovely life. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of your friends and family, and we're gonna see you out there sometime. Cheers.